Hello everyone. Today we are going to bake an apple almond tart. So I've got a little bit of a new setup here. I'm trying to get everything going just right. Let's see here. So I usually do the mise en place before the stream starts, but I think today, because it took me a minute to get set up, I'm just going to go ahead and do that live right here. Get this camera set just a little bit better there. Oh, no. That's probably better. Okay. So, I'm going to be using this book, How to Bake Everything, by Mark Bittman. I got this recently for my birthday, and I think, I've been looking through it, and it's like the Bible of baking, and I haven't made a tart in a while, and also I got an official 9-inch fluted tart pan from my fiance for my birthday as well, so I decided to find a good way to break this thing in, and that's how we're going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up. We'll have to par bake the crust when the time comes, but before then, we're just going to kind of take this thing one step at a time and work our way through. If you have any questions or anything like that, chat's open. I got the alert box up there and everything, so up there and everything, so it should be good to go. So the apple tart in this book, and then what's really neat about this is it comes with a lot of different variations on what you can do to your, pie, tart, pudding, whatever candy. There's really everything in here, and they're all variations. It's pear hazelnut, peach, apple custard, apple walnut. There's one in here called apple almond that kind of caught my eye. It's not quite doing the frangipan, but Frangipan, however you pronounce it, but I think it'll be a good one. So I'm gonna go ahead and start getting stuff out and ready for that. We'll start with the sweet tart crust. We'll get this going. This will actually have to chill for almost an hour. So in the meantime, we might take a break around the middle of this, cast, but we'll just kind of play it by ear. Okay, so the food processor is going to be our companion through this journey, so I'm going to set that there. And let's see, sweet tart crust. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get our stuff together here. I think what I'm going to do is I will probably just go ahead and have I'll go ahead and put everything in this liquid measuring cup just for the sake of getting it all in one container, and then I'll put it in the food processor. I think it might just be a little bit neater that way. So did the dishes right before this, and all my stuff was still in the dish tray. Okay, so let's get started here. Try this thing out a little bit. With our 1 1/4 cups of flour. Now there are a few different ways to do this, but I'm trying to be a little bit better about it. So I've heard this from Martha Stewart before too, but they say If you're really wanting to be accurate with your measuring, what you need to do is put your spoon your flour into the container, and then after you're done with that, you will level it off. It's probably so that you're not packing down any of the flour. Very few ingredients where you really want to pack it down except for like brown sugar. It's okay to make a little bit of a mess here since we're going to scrape this off anyway. Okay. Pick this back up over here. We scrape it off back into the container, hopefully. There we go. Okay, so there's our one. Now we need a quarter. We're going to do the same thing with the, let's see, the quarter cup. I usually, especially in the morning when I'm in a hurry, I just kind of pour this stuff in. Like I said, I'm going to try to be very formal about this, even though it seems to be a little bit messier. Just for the sake of trying it, you know. So, everything's been all cleaned off before this too, so I can just scrape that flour back in. Okay, so there's 1 1/4 cups of flour. Look at everything all cleaned up again. There we go. There's always like a big pre and post clean after this, and today I actually moved my whole setup into the kitchen in hopes that this would relieve some of the camera issues I was having last time. I think I have to kind of figure out what's going on with my USB ports, find out where the power for what is going to get a pretty efficient stream going here. Let's see, so 1/4 cup of confectioner sugar. Okay, so some powdered sugar. Now, I didn't see the same tip for powdered sugar as I've seen for flour. Cut the top of this bag off so I can have a nice, smooth surface to pour out of here. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour this in. We need 1/4 cup of confectioner sugar. Go ahead and get that in there. You know, I've yet to decide really what I'm going to do during the break while this is cooling. I think there's some other things I can work on, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So we'll see. I don't know if can maybe just see what's going on in the chat for a little bit. I might be able to pull up one of my games, just stream something I've got like Super Mario World and stuff like that I can put up. Okay, 1 stick of very cold butter, cut into small pieces, plus butter for greasing. So I did take out some butter for greasing the pan. This is just the standard, little butter boat we keep on the table. So you can imagine baking and all the baked goods go through a generous amount of butter. So, let's see, 1 very cold stick of butter. Cutting board here, get a knife here. This does not specify salted or unsalted. I'm going to do unsalted. Really, I actually tend to use salted for most things I'm doing in the kitchen, because I feel like it's a nominal effect, and at worst it gives your food a little bit of extra flavor. It's not overbearing. Most people couldn't tell the difference anyway. Okay, so cut into small pieces. So let's go down the middle, turn it on its side. This is kind of what I do for biscuits when I'm rubbing the butter into the dough. Cut it like that, you see? Cut into 4s there, and then I'll go along and chop it. So, small pieces. Oh, thank Thank you, Sergeant Power Glove, for the host. How are you today? Hoping I've got everything set up just right. I think so. Okay. Hey, the bacon's going good. It took me a minute to get everything set up. I was saying I usually do my mise en place, get everything in the right spot at the right time before I get these things started. But today I tried a new setup and it took forever, so I'm just gonna go ahead and roll with it. Let's see, 1 egg yolk plus 1 tablespoon of ice water. So we need some ice water. I'm gonna go ahead and just put a little bit in a cup. And while I'm getting this egg yolk ready, I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the freezer. I think part of the reason you use ice water when you're doing this in a food processor, the blades actually, the friction and the heat from the blades, though it might seem minimal to us, when at scale, you realize it adds a little bit of extra heat to whatever you're doing. Dough's giving you issues, just roll with it. Man, you were right about that. Okay, 1 egg yolk. Yolk. Sergeant Power Glove, you got plenty of yolks. Always yolking around. Okay, so we're going to take our egg, crack it, and we're going to go ahead and get our... Actually, I should be sure I'm actually reading this correctly. Okay, processor, pulse the flour, sugar, and salt to combine. Oh, we got to do some salt. Okay. Cracking you up. I get it. Man, you got these puns. Okay. So... I'm going to add this all in there. We're going to kind of pulse to combine it all. And then, once we have combined everything, we're going to add a little bit of water at a time, 1 tablespoon at a time. And we're going to hope for the best. Okay. Let's see. Give you a nice view of what's going on here. Camera gets a little wobbly. All right, we're going to pulse this just a couple of times. So when everything come together, that looks pretty good. See, the butter's been... Hello, RubeTube. How's it going? Glad to see ya. Yeah, I hope it turns out delicious. We had a ton of extra apples, so when I was trying to think of what we were going to make, or what I was going to make, it's like, well, we've got 1 billion Honeycrisp apples, so figured why not? But yeah, this is looking pretty good. We have our flour, salt, powdered sugar, and butter all pulsed together in there. I'm going to get my egg yolk ready here. Okay, separating the white from the yolk. Okay, I'm just going to set this guy on its side for right now as he stands still, so I double check that I'm doing the right thing. Oh, the Honeycrisp. Yeah, I know. I don't know what, like, Honeycrisp seems like this apple that they had a, secret genetic code for, that one day it leaked to the public, and then all of a sudden we were finally given the apple we've been waiting for. Red and Delicious was just a ruse to really, disappoint everybody. It's the least delicious apple. Mealy. What's a mealy anything? Okay, add the egg yolk. Pulse to combine, or use a fork to incorporate it. Then pulse with the ice water, a tablespoon at a time until it starts to form a ball. Turn it onto a lightly floured counter and then knead until just smooth. Okay, so we're gonna turn this current area in front of me into the lightly floured surface to prepare here for the next step. We'll get the ice water out in just a second here. Okay, so there's the egg yolk going in. Go ahead and pulse that a little bit. Mix it, so just barely get that guy, that blade really gets the stuff mixed up nicely. So 1 tablespoon at a time. We're going to add this ice water here. They are. Why do apples get all the love? And yeah, it's true. I don't understand why apples get all the love and they're not trying to like make new cantaloupe. They need a new cantaloupe. Current cantaloupe and honeydew just don't cut it. Okay. 1 tablespoon at a time, right? Yeah, okay. We're not quite getting the ball of dough that we want, so we're doing a little bit more here. Getting closer. You can see it's kind of getting into little balls here. Yeah, the apple from the apple from Apple before long. I've heard that. Yeah, that the isn't that crazy? Everybody here thinks that there's only one kind of banana, here being America, and then you find out that there are plenty more kinds of bananas, and that the one we have, we are struggling and very insustainably trying to maintain. It's crazy. You see that? Now we're getting that ball. It's exactly what we were looking for. There it is. Thank you for dealing with the noise there, people. Okay. So now, we're going to lightly flour this surface here. Now there are a few options. The first is that we can freeze this tart shell when it's ready. I am not going to do that, because the other option is to grease our current tart pan and then press it in and then refrigerate it. I think that'll be a little bit better for our process. We don't need it to be this gorgeous rolled out thing, but I might do a little bit of reading in this book again just to be sure that that's the right thing to do. Let's see. Yeah, freeze for 20 minutes before baking. That sounds better for our purposes. So, I'm going to go ahead and get our ball of dough here. Then my dogs are in the other room and I heard one of them hacking. Okay, so the kneading, I really don't want to get too much flour into this, but honestly I got it a little bit, I got it pretty moist just putting it in the mixer there, so it's not so bad for it to take up some of this. But you see, nice smooth dough, really does feel nice. Everything's come together. So this is good. I believe this is good. So here is the tart dough. Okay? Press it up just a little bit. So, what we're going to do next, go ahead and scrape off this counter here. Get all this, the butter and the flour and everything like that. It's not exactly usable anymore, but you get rid of probably about a teaspoon worth of flour. It's no big deal. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grease the pan. Here's the pan here. Move this guy out of the way. You okay? Okay. Slight technical issue. I'll be right back. Alright, I've returned. Next time I'll put on the Guy Fieri GIF. Promise. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and grease the pan. Take some of this butter. I will use most of this soon. Just wash my hands, but either way, you can go ahead and just draw the stuff on. And it's fun. Your inner child is really going to enjoy this. It's a good thing, like Martha Stewart says. Okay, you want to try to get some butter up in those flutes. There you go, as you draw around it. That's perfect. You know, this might even be a little bit too much. Just a little bit. I was watching some baking streams last night, just kind of looking around to see what other people do because I'm very new to this. And I see that the 2-camera setup is kind of typical. But I also heard that somebody had some music going on in the background as they did that. That would be nice. It is awfully still in here while we're doing this stuff. It'd be nice to have some tunes going, some nice royalty-free tunes. No Mighty Ducks soundtracks or anything. Or even the video game version of Mighty Ducks. Okay. Press the dough into a generously buttered pan. Tuck it into the corners. Okay. Okay, we're going for it here. Oh yeah, that would be nice. You know, I find myself listening to like Nintendo soundtrack stuff all the time. Like, man, I wish that there was some non-licensed Nintendo lo-fi or something that I could play. Like that Legend of Zelda Rainy Day stuff. I know it sounds silly, but it was like the ultimate, you know, working on homework music for sure. By the way, the butter in this stuff just has it completely malleable. It is moving around really nicely. Not just the butter in the pan, but the butter in the mixture. So I'm just trying to slowly build this up to get these fluted sides So I really want to have the nice, you know, towering tart sides. Get those ridges going, because, you know, it's the first use of this fluted pan. You got to make it a good one. So we're slowly building it up here. Oh, okay. That's awesome. I'll have to check them out and see. DJ Cutman and Game Chops. And if I had usernames like that instead of, you know, Dave Smith 1095, I think I'd be okay with people using my music too. Oh, cool. That's awesome. And that's a good way to, I mean, just the odds of, one, they help people out because people are going to want music for their streams, but two, you know, people are going to know whose music they're listening to. That's awesome. Or people like me are going to ask about it and, you know, end up using it. So we're getting there, slowly getting these edges. You know, I know when you're doing anything kind of cakey or any kind of batter or anything like that, too much butter is going to cause uneven baking. But this is going to be par baked, so I'm really hoping that whatever moisture we're getting is not going to be an issue. Slowly getting there though. You can see how this is taking shape. Just want to kind of use my palm to make sure the middle is even. Go around the corner with my thumb, make sure that my thumb and finger, just kind of make sure that the corners have plenty of dough in them. It's pressed into the pan. It's just kind of like my version of a yoga stream. Maybe just listen to my soothing voice. Nice, monotone, let it take you away. Had a rough week? Let's talk about it. Let's chat about it. Had a good week? Even better. Chat about that too. Okay. So this is gonna go, after I rinse my hands off, this is gonna go into the freezer for 20 minutes, and then we will be ready to par bake it. So what I'm gonna do in the meantime is I will get my oven set. We're gonna set the oven at, I think it's 350, but it might be higher. Let's see. Line shell with buttered foil and weights. The doughs are. Sorry, I'm trying to find the right temperature to have this in there for. Okay, I'll find that out in just a second. For now, we're going to pop this into the freezer. Here's our tart shell. We're going to fill this with some dry rice. Let's see here. There we go. We're going to fill this with some dry rice and par bake it in about 20 minutes. I'm going to pop this in the freezer. Okay, it's 12:11 now, so at 12:31 that will be ready. Rinse my hands off. And let's look into this par baking and see. going to get our ingredients ready for the filling for the tart pretty soon here. At least get everything out. So let's find out how long we're going to par bake this thing. Here we go. 425. We'll prick it with a fork. Let's see. We'll also use some of that butter to put on a piece of foil. And then it should be good. So 425. Alright, now we're moving on. We're going to go ahead and see, clean up the table just a smidge. We can really use most of this stuff again, but I don't believe we're going to use the food processor anymore. I think everything else is going to be pretty well manual, so we get that put in the sink here, out of the way. Let's see. Got our oven set. Let's get on to the Apple Almond Tart goodness here. I'm going to start getting these. Things ready. Oh, thanks for the shout out on your channel there, Sergeant Power Glove. I appreciate that. Okay, 2 to 3 pounds of tart apples, peeled, cored, thin sliced, about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to use my slightly larger cutting board for these apples so I can have some space to put some stuff off to the side as I need it. We'll just book up just a little bit here. See, what else are we going to need? We're going to need some lemons for lemon juice, sugar, cinnamon, raspberry preserves, water, rum, or brandy. We do have a little bit of brandy. Say spiced rum. There we go. Brandy. Because you'll only use it once in a great while. Okay. Unless you're like 80, then that is probably your drink of choice. Only very old people like brandy. I said it. Okay. We've got some raspberry fruit spread. It's pretty much the same as preserves. It's got a little bit less seeds, so I'm kind of okay with that. Let's get our apples here. We're going to need lemons too. Get a couple lemons up. Life gives you lemons. Make an apple tart. Okay. And get our peeler. So One, I have already washed all of these. These are Honeycrisp apples. And actually, ever since all the COVID stuff started, I've been in a pretty good habit of like really thoroughly washing all my produce when I get back from the store. And then you hear about, there was like an onion recall and all this, so it's a good habit to get into. It takes a little bit of extra time, but then you really, and in good conscience, could take out your apples or produce and just be ready to use it when you want to use it. So this is kind of a bulky peeler. The other one I have is pretty old, so we're going to use this one because it's a little bit sharper. Not much, obviously, but a little bit. I imagine this book is going to be covered in baking, baking related stains and things like that one day, which is good. I feel like that's the sign of a well-used cookbook or recipe card. You see that it's got, I mean, maybe, unless it just means you're not super organized, but. So we're going through peeling these apples. And actually, to keep them from browning, I think I'm going to peel one and then cut one right away. The longer these things oxidize, the more of a chance of them turning brown and the less of a chance of them being this nice, beautiful, apple for our tart here. So we're going to use about a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. With my luck, I usually get about a tablespoon out of one lemon. I'm going to rinse this out again. This will be my bowl for the apples until I'm ready. Let's see, go to the store. Alright, well, happy travels, Sergeant Power Glove. I appreciate you dropping in. See you in a little bit. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and dry this guy out. Like I said earlier, I think it's a good strategy to maybe do the mise en place live, only because it kind of gives a chance to chat before, before we do the baking and everything. So much of this stuff gets drawn out by preparation that it's kind of nice to have a chance to chat. Right. You see, as I squeeze out the lemon, I usually like to run it along the lip of the bowl or whatever I'm using to kind of get a little bit extra juice there. I don't have a juicer, but I really don't think they're that necessary. And, let's see, I probably could have used a strainer, because now I got some lemon seeds in here. Let me get these things out real quick. When you thought this was ASMR, you get the sound of a fork against glass. Isn't that lovely? There we go. Almost got all of them here. Oh no. This is like my worst nightmare. You've got a lemon seed in a bowl. You can only use a fork to get it out. And even when you do, the noise is terrible. There we go. Alright. So this is probably about a tablespoon in there. And we've got our 2 to 3 pounds of apples. So here's how I core my apples. I cut them in half, and then I cut in just a little bit, and I cut in just a little bit again. And then you can just kind of slide it out. Okay? Just a tiny bit of skin left on that, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. Yeah, there you have it. Okay, we're going to do the same with this one here. Cut in a little V there, 45 degree. Do the same on the other side, slide it out, get the last bit of skin off. skin off. Okay, and then we want about an 1/8 inch thick slices. So that's about an 1/8 thick, I think. You're going for an 1/8 inch. This is maybe an 1/8 or a tiny bit more, 3/16, but that's pretty good. Now you put them in this. You put them in the lemon juice to keep them from browning. Oxidation is what makes anything brown. Same with metal rusting, you know, it goes brown from too much time and oxygen. So do apples, so does a lot of fruit. But somehow, the acid and the lemon and the lack of exposure, I guess, these things get when they're in lemon juice, keeps them from going brown. You don't want any browned pieces of apple in your tart. I think you want it all to be, you know, apple colored, that's all. So we're going through here doing the same thing. I might even take the strainer and squeeze the rest of that other lemon, just because I want to be sure I get all of this in there. So. And that tartness really is just going to complement the tartness in this apple anyway. So it's not going to be something that, not going to be an unwelcome flavor once you're, once you got everything in the tart, right? Okay, now we're going to continue our process of peeling and cutting, okay? So this is a good recipe to make when you've got several extra apples and you need to give them some extra time to be eaten. Maybe, you know, I feel like it's something that you can't always get easily and quickly creative with something like apples. You know, have them with lunch, have them plain, but something like this really takes a ordinary thing, an ordinary ingredient, and make it. Dog's trying to eat an apple peel. Not good for dogs. Hey, what's going on, Murder City? How you doing? You here to watch me peel apples? Because I know everybody else is. Okay. Second one, we got 2 more after this, and honestly I think I could probably keep up, so I'm going to go ahead and peel those just to stay on the same task and just kind of rock it out here, as they say. You know, real rock and roll tactics. Heck yes, dude, this is going to be a delicious tart in no time. So, to Murder City, anybody else who may be in the chat lurking or anything like that, I think I just re-explained that earlier I was going through this book called How to Bake Everything. This author, what's his name, Mark something? This author, Mark Bittman, has also written books like How to Cook Everything, and it's a nice approach to cooking cookbooks because it's got a really nice casual tone. It's just somebody explaining to you. I mean, it's kind of empowering, you know. They explain to you the lack of. They explain to you kind of in a no BS way how to cook and prepare, how to, you know, get ready for cooking, and to kind of give you the ability to make things without being glued to a recipe. Now, even though I am right now, this is the kind of basic lesson that, you know, over time you start to remember, okay, tart crust is just flour, sugar, salt, butter, water. It's really not that much, you know, like bread is just flour, what is it, water, flour, yeast, and salt. So 4 ingredients for that, 5 ingredients for tart shells, and the result, although simple, is really delicious. Like if you can get that buttery, crumbly crust just right, you're in a good position. So we're going through getting these apples cored. Now, has anybody in the chat baked anything recently? Is there anything they'd like to request for a future show here? Because I'm trying to think of the best way to communicate with everyone. You know, live is okay. I can go back and look at these videos and say, okay, that's the thing we're gonna bake. But I'm trying to think of the best medium to really get some suggestions for, you know, what we might do. I'm sure I'll run out of ideas eventually. But I don't think I'll run out of inspiration. There are so many things that I've yet to bake that I really, you know, that I'm really inspired to do. Getting our last pour out here. It's like the most relaxing way to work on your pour. Get it? Okay. So we're doing about an 1/8 inch on these pieces. So that's about the thickness of maybe 1.5 quarters. I know that number is just gonna stick in your head like crazy, right? Okay. Just getting the last little bit of skin off of some of those. Really getting excited about how this is going to look. This is going to be a beautiful presentation. Pretty much anything that's concentric, you know, coming out in a circle. It's really, really cool to do. Well, I'm slowly running out of room for these apples too. Maybe I should have had a bigger bowl. I think we'll make the switch here. This will toss these things up a little bit too. Okay. That's pretty good when you get it straight out of the bowl. You feel the sour in your jowls. Okay. Last apple. Get some of the skin off there. Okay. Now we got this guy. I'm going to go ahead and use the strainer to keep the seeds out. Now I know I said before that I run the lemon along the bowl, and now I'm using a strainer, not just the bowl. Well, after you get most of the seeds out anyway, one, you can kind of do that on the side of the strainer to work those seeds out. But two, if you don't feel confident you got all of them, do it right here. Otherwise, you get the seeds out in the strainer, and then you can get the last bit of that lemon juice out along the side of the bowl like that. Okay? Alright. By the way, I'm not putting this on the floor. There's a trash can right next to me. Okay. So, I'm gonna put this in here. I'm gonna toss these apples in the lemon juice. And what else do we need to get ready? We've got to get some cinnamon, a tablespoon of butter. I know we're gonna use for dotting this. If you're unfamiliar with the term, dotting is really just kind of like cutting little pieces of butter and putting dots, around the baked good you're working on. 1:31, liquor 12:31. Central Time, looks like we're ready to par bake. So set these apples off to the side. Set this stuff off and get some foil and the butter to put on top of the tart so that the foil doesn't stick to the tart as we par bake it at 425 for I believe 10 minutes. My parents a long time ago got me a gigantic thing of foil. This is one of those like 14-foot long, like if I showed it here and it went on for another 10 feet in that direction. But it's a good size for something like this, for a 9-inch tart shell. Before I take it out, let's see. I'm gonna do this in the other room to save your ears. I know this can't be a pleasant noise to hear over a microphone, especially if it's picking up a lot, so be as gentle as possible here. Okay, we got this butter. We get the rice ready. I want to take that tart out last because I don't want to risk it getting too warm too quickly. Okay, so set the knife here. I hope this is not unbearable, but we're just doing some quick. So you can just draw that butter right onto that foil. Okay. Do I prefer heavy duty aluminum foil? I think when given the option, I feel like heavy duty aluminum foil is kind of like one of those, it's kind of like saying heavy duty garbage bag, like, I don't think that, I think if it's good aluminum foil, it doesn't have to be heavy duty, it's just got to be, sufficient enough to not rip as you take it out. So, obviously you don't want a piece of sheet metal in whatever you're using because you want to be flexible, but yeah, heavy duty, it's alright. 9 out of 10. Oh, sorry for the noise, everybody. Okay, let's try to make some room here. We're going to set this foil off to the side. We're going to drop some freezer rocks on the floor. Gotta keep rocks in your freezer. Okay, there's a tart. And we're going to go ahead and go through and do the hole punching. So, breaking holes with a fork in your crust before you par bake it keeps that butter from developing. So basically when you bake something, moisture from the butter as it bakes expands and gluten keeps it in its place and gives that shape to whatever you're baking, in a nutshell, right? Or in a tart shell. So you poke these holes all around to keep the pastry from puffing out. And my cell phone is talking to me, sorry. And that should do it. So I'm going to put some foil on this. Well, heck, we'll do it on the camera, huh? And to be generous, I'm going to mute the mic for 1 second just to be generous on your ears here. Okay, the mic's back on. I did some, ripping, and I know last night. Yeah, I have audio. Sorry, I put it on mute because I did some ripping of the tinfoil, and I wanted to save everyone's ears. And then I had to pour some rice in, so I just didn't want it to be an unenjoyable experience. So poured some rice in here. We're gonna go ahead and par bake this stuff. Like I said, I want to check really quick to be sure I do this for exactly the right amount of time. Kind of like a measure twice, cut once kind of idea here. Let's see. Sweet tart crust. I'll do 425. Alright, let's do 10 minutes. So with that, I will be right back. Okay, we are back. So, got myself a little bit of coffee. Did a little bit of the, let's see, there we go. Did a little bit of the mise en place that I said I had neglected before. So, I've got a timer set for that crust that's par baking right now. It's going to bake for 12 minutes with the weights in it, and then after that's done, I'm going to take the weights out and then lower the temperature from 425 where it is now to 350 for another 10 minutes without the weights in there. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for hanging around. Sergeant Power Glove. Glad you made it back. But yeah, so right now I'm just getting some of my other ingredients ready for the tart. We've got 2 tablespoons of sugar, half a teaspoon of cinnamon. We've got a tablespoon of butter just hanging off on the side there. We've got a 1/3 cup of raspberry preserves. I'm using, it's mostly fruit spread, which is probably a little bit more sugar. Seems like less seeds though, which is kind of what I wanted. I don't want somebody taking a bite and hitting a blackberry seed. But I think blackberry preserves would go well with the apples. And we've got our little bit of brandy here. So the apples have been tossed in the lemon juice so that they don't brown. And what's next here is I'm going to do them in an overlapping circle in the tart pan when it's done, so about 10 more minutes. And then I'll sprinkle with the sugar and cinnamon, so we're going to go ahead and combine those here. I'll mix those up before they get added. And let's see. So the par-baked crust needs to cool as well. So we're going to need probably about 20 minutes between now and when the tart goes into the oven. So we're going to be cognizant of that as we move forward. Okay, so the glaze is going to be the preserves with a little bit of water or rum or brandy. So we're going to use a tablespoon of brandy. And we're going to heat it on medium-low in a saucepan and then strain and brush that over the top. So I think what we're going to do in the meantime while we're waiting for the tart shell to cool is we're going to use that food processor again. We're going to prepare some blanched almonds with a little bit of additional cinnamon, and that's going to go in the bottom of the tart shell. And then we'll do the apples on top of that, bake it, and then the blackberry brandy topping is going to go on that. And I think it should be good after that point. I'm really hoping we have enough apples prepared last minute. If we need another one, I can peel and cut another one up, but I think we're looking pretty good. So yeah, let's see. Let's get those almonds out. We're going to get those prepared since we have a little bit of time. Forgive the trademark, you're going to hear me talking to my Amazon Echo, which often is used as a timer more than anything else. So let's get those almonds. Let's see, what else do we need? Toast 3/4 cup blanched almonds while you heat the oven for the tart shell. We're going to toast those up in a pan, actually. I think it'll just be quicker. Let's see, cool them, put them in a food processor, finely grind them, stop before they turn into a paste. Add some cinnamon and sugar, spread over the bottom of the tart shell before tossing the apples and proceeding with the recipe. This is going to be delicious. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, almonds. Alexa, stop. I actually set that timer for 2 minutes too short, so I'm going to take it out at 12:50. In the meantime, blanched almonds. We got slivered almonds. Did you know you can keep nuts in the freezer? Because you can. Let's see, pecans. Let me check in the cabinet and see. we have sliced rather than blanched almonds, and that's not going to be a problem. I just anticipated the blanched ones because those usually don't have any skin on them, and there's just a little bit on the slivered almonds here. This is, Aldi brand, but so that's fine. We can use those. Go ahead and pop the rest of those back into the freezer. Like I said, you can keep your nuts in the freezer. It'll last pretty much indefinitely. Blanch them, bro. I would blanch them, but blanching these would be a waste of time, I think. I don't think it would work so well. Let's see. I don't know how far we can get this camera to reach, but I think we could probably get a change on the angle of the full body one. So we're going to go ahead and turn this. We're going to first take the par-baked crust out of the oven. Don't forget about that. And so that you can see it, I'll go ahead and turn the camera over. There we go. A new you, a new view. I'm going to go ahead and take the... We'll leave that on one for now, huh? Okay. And let's get this just right. I don't really want this to be crooked. Okay, we're good. So, we're going to get this out of the oven. Okay. It smells great. I'm going to lower this to 350. Turn that over just a little bit. There you go. How's that? That's much better. Okay. So I've got a pot here that I'm just going to put the rice in for now as it cools. Don't forget, whatever you're going to do at this point is going to be very hot. So be careful. And be careful you don't drop your tin off the side of the oven here. You've worked pretty hard so far. Don't let that go to waste. Okay. Rice came off pretty well. Tart sides aren't super high up, but they are up. It does have some body to it. So here's what we're looking like so far. Take this under the overhead. Here's what we're looking like so far. We're going to add it back in at 350 for 10 more minutes. And it's going to come out golden brown, and then pretty much all we have to do is, I don't know how much longer it goes back in. We'll find out. Alright, oven open, tart in. I will set a timer on my phone so as to not be constantly calling after the robot. Let's see. So we'll set a timer for 10 more minutes. And we're going to keep the camera facing over here because we're going to be toasting up some almonds. So I'll prepare them over there, get to see the overhead, and then I'll show you what's going on at the oven. So let's check the recipe again. We've got Apple Almond Tart. We need 3/4 of a cup blanched almonds. In this case, we're using slivered almonds. This is our 1 cup, 1 dry cup measuring cup. So I'm filling it up most of the way. Got our 3/4 cup there. Looking good, looking good. Fire, fire. Okay. So this really will not take long, which is why I'm not, changing the whole setup for this. Just got a small pan here. Just get this thing on a medium. Get it on a medium high. You're gonna be standing right here watching it. Take your nuts, put them in the pan, And most of what you're going to do, I'll show you under here, most of what you're going to do is just kind of shake it around in the pan like that and give it a toss if you're feeling confident, right? But these will heat up pretty quickly. So it looks like when this crust is done, like I said, we've got to go in for another 10 minutes at 350. When it's done and when it needs to cool, what we're going to do is turn the oven back up to 375. That's what the apples are going to have to bake at for about 40 minutes. Toast my goats, exactly. Murder City, you're killing it today. How's your Saturday morning going? We still meeting up for beers later? Masked beers, of course. And as a heads up, right on. You're going to want to follow your senses with the toasting the almonds. Put your light on or something, but you will see them start to get a little bit of color to them. And if you've waited too long, if they're starting to burn, you'll know it. So if they're starting to burn, have something extra on the side you can put them into so that you can get them off the heat immediately, because the difference between toasted and burnt slivered almonds is 2 seconds. So use your ears, you can hear the oil of the nuts heating up. Use your eyes, look for a change in color. Use your nose, you can smell that really pleasant toasted nut smell, you know, almonds, pecans, you do the same thing for any of them really. But you can really smell something pleasant starting to happen, and it, you know, really rises that wonderful aroma and then quickly drops to being a nasty burnt smell if you don't catch it. So, you know, you don't have to be fancy and toss it up or anything. You can use a spatula, you can use a, you know, wooden spoon or something to stir it around. It is the Maillard effect. At least to the best of my knowledge, anything cooking and getting some color is the Maillard effect. If you sneeze while you're streaming, always into your elbow. These are really starting to smell nice. I think I'd say they're about half to 3/4 of the way done. You know, some of the finer bits are going to end up getting a little bit burned, especially if you're using something like slivered almonds rather than blanched bigger pieces. That's okay. Keep an eye out though, because that is your telltale sign. When your smaller pieces are about to go, it's going to boom, 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 and then you're going to see those, you know, bigger slices going. Really starting to smell good. I am looking forward. Well, we got a couple of minutes left on that tart shell. 4.5 minutes left on the shell. Then it's going to cool down, and it's not quite cool enough outside for me to open up a window. But I tell you, something like this in fall time, you know, picture like fictional settings where people put their pie on the windowsill to cool. Like that really is the ideal way to do it. Nice breeze. Oh, and this is it. You want to see that right there? Kind of got a little bit of color. The heat from the pan is actually going to keep cooking these things just a little bit, so it's not so bad to take off, but they smell great. I'm going to follow my instincts there. I'll take them off the heat. Pour them into a little bowl. You can do this for anything. So is a very enjoyable, you know, toasting whatever nut you're using is going to really bring out a lot of flavor. And it's going to be, you're not going to want to go back to using untoasted in anything once you've used toasted. So, got our toasted almonds ready. Let's go ahead and make our sugar cinnamon mix that goes on the toasted almonds in this guy right here that we used for cinnamon earlier. So we are going to do a 1/4 teaspoon. This is a 1/2 teaspoon here. So we're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of this, half of the half, right? And then we're going to do, I bet it's probably 1 tablespoon of sugar. So the mix you're doing for the almonds is going to be the same ratio as the mix that you did for the apples. It's just half, right? So shake that up, get it mixed. Whoa, put that on slow-mo. Whoa, incredible. Got that? All right, we're going to take that, we're going to put it over the almonds, and then just shake it up. Shake it up, baby. You probably can't sing more than like 2 seconds of that song without getting shut down, so. Okay. And honestly, this smells fantastic. I would eat this just as a snack. It smells great. And it's probably healthier than any other dang snack you can pick up at the store anyway, right? Okay. Let's see. What have we got next? So it looks like we're going to have one more stovetop adventure, and we're going to need to be over there for a minute. So, I'm trying to think. I'm really not sure. I think what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and set up on this burner right here, and you'll have a decent view of what's going on. We're not going to do the overhead just yet. Don't quite have the length, and it's a very sensitive setup, so I don't want to mess anything up this time around. But I promise to just take a minute to combine the brandy, and then we're going to strain it out, and then I'll show you the results. So, tart shell coming out in 53 seconds. Let's go ahead and measure out the brandy, put it in with our preserves on the overhead cam here. Ooh, this is getting exciting. It's all kind of coming together. Let's see, is it 1 tablespoon or 1 teaspoon? Let's see. 1 tablespoon, okay. There we go. 1 tablespoon of brandy with those blackberries. That's going to be delicious. Yeah, I don't know how anybody drinks that straight. Okay. So, rice is cooling down. Set this thing out of the way, make some room for the tart shell to come out. There's our timer. We're going to take the tart shell out of the oven. Let's see how it par baked. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to give it just 1, maybe 2 more minutes in there. It's just a little bit less baked than I want it to be. I certainly did. Yeah, I did put some lemon juice on the apples to keep them from browning. That was something we went over a little bit earlier. A little bit of it's like Alton Brown tricks, you know. It's like, but yeah, we put some lemon juice in there. That's why these guys are sitting in there pretty right now. There's no browning going on, no oxidation, and honestly, it'll make you pucker up. But those are really tasty too. I think especially because these are Honeycrisp apples, so So when you use the lemon juice on something that's already that tart and sweet, it's a really good flavor. And I think it's going to go great with, once we cook it and that sweetness comes out, it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to move this away for a moment. I think what I'm going to do is we need that food processor for the almonds. So I'm going to bring that over. We're going to go ahead and chop up those almonds via the food processor while the tart shell is cooling. So tart shell is going to come out in just one moment. Oh, and wouldn't you know it, I definitely forgot that I need to wash out the food processor bowl. So everyone be patient. I'm going to take out this tart shell, wash up a bowl real quick, and then I'm going to grind up the almonds. Then we're going to cook up that liquid topping. It's all coming together here. Okay, that looks good. Now, if I had to guess, I think there's probably a little bit too much butter. Kind of came away from the pan a little bit. It's okay. It still looks pretty good. I know there's going to be no trouble getting this thing out of the pan. If anything, this just tells me, one, it's going to be delicious. Two, I'm going to have no problem with this thing coming out. I think that was a successful par bake. Put this back up to 375 in anticipation of the apples later on. And we're going to go ahead and, let's see, I'll hit you with a be right back as I wash up this and reset both of my cameras. So I will see you soon. Okie dokie, we're back. So, I've got my food processor here, just drying it off, just got done washing it again. The tart shell is cooling. Now I guess ideally we want this tart shell to cool for probably about 20 minutes maybe, 15, 20 minutes. What I'm gonna do is, I really don't think the corners are gonna burn too bad, but what I'm gonna do is take care of all my other business, get these almonds ground up that we just toasted a minute ago. Sorry, you got a little bit of camera there. Sorry about that. And yeah, it should be good. Let's see. Let's get this guy out of the view. Perfect. Okay. So here we've got a 1/3 cup of toasted almonds. Oh, where's the blade? That could help. Oh. Okay, we've got our blade. Not to be confused with the vampire. We've got a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, a tablespoon of sugar, this nice, delightful little almond, I would say topping, but this almond concoction that's going to go beneath the apples in the tart shell. Okay, so mild shaky here. I don't want them to be powder. This is probably a pretty good blend here. You see they're emulsified, or let's say ground. Kind of, you know, if you're a kid that used to hang around a river or something like that, think of like creek pebbles, whatever kind of Tom Sawyer metaphor I can use here. But what you want is nothing super fine. There's a little bit of it here. Maybe I went a second too long, but these are pretty good. Everything's kind of chopped in half, quartered. So this is what we're going to spread at the bottom of the tart pan. And then we'll do the apples on top of that, bake for 40 minutes, right? And our topping that we're going to brush on the apples when they're done baking is basically like heated raspberry, or they say you can use apricot or peach or whatever, but basically it's some kind of complementary preserve. I'm using blackberry. With brandy, water, rum, I'm using brandy. And you're going to heat it up in a saucepan just long enough to combine everything. So it's really going to be, 45 seconds on medium-high heat. And then you're going to strain out the liquid from there. But the point of all of this is that I've got about a total of maybe, just over 1/3 of a cup of topping. So I'm going to use the 1 cup dry cup, rinse this out, and I'll strain it into here. We're going to do that now because we want to allow a little more time for the... Actually, let's check the tart shell, see if it's cool. I think I want to give that just a little bit more time. So we're going to do a few other steps first, and then we'll do the almonds in the bottom, do the apples, bake it for 40 minutes, and then we're done. So let's get it rolling. I'm going to go ahead and rearrange this so you can see the stove top again. Hang on, everybody, we're going on a journey. There we go. Okay. Now, got our, put this under the camera here, we've got our raspberry and bourbon mix. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the saucepan. Okay, and we're going to do that on medium-high. Got our strainer. Trying to get that guy ready. So we got the strainer right here, and when we're done with this brandy mix, strain it into no time, this liquid really thins out. Okay? So we're going to do that for just a second longer. Wow. The brandy goes super well with the blackberry preserves. I think that's going to be a really nice flavor. Actually, we're going to use our rubber spatula to get that guy out. Rinse out the cup. Okay. I got just a little bit of bubble going around the outside of the pan. You don't want this thing full on boiling or anything. It's okay to get just a smidgen of bubbles going on there. Yeah. Nice and thinned out. That only took about a minute. And we're going to go ahead and strain that into this cup very carefully. Because the seeds are a little bit stubborn, got this rubber spatula I'm going to use. Just going to press liquid through to make a nice little glaze for your apples when your tart is done. Okay. Show you on camera here what I'm doing. Okay. So, got the seeds and the mixture in the strainer, and all I'm doing is just kind of guiding the liquid into the cup below it. Once you get all the liquid out, you should just have a fine little film of seeds that you can go ahead and toss out. Okay, well now it's going to start getting fun. We're going to dump the almond into the bottom of that tart shell, and we're going to do some real live arranging. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my handy dandy How to Bake Everything book back here in front of me to guide. I'm going to set the sauce to the side for now, so we're going to glaze the tart with later. Set the towel up. Let you all look at my beautiful setup again here. Perfect. Breeding, yes. That's so much of baking or any kind of cooking, I guess, is just so much preparation. That's why I said, you know, it would have been nice to do the mise en place today, but do what you can, right? So this guy's sunk in just a little bit. Tells me I probably could have gone thinner on the dough. Here, let's show you. I could have gone thinner on the bottom. I don't think that's going to result in any soggy bottoms or anything. But let's see. Go ahead and wash your hands. Okay, so first we will do our almond. Okay, this you can just kind of scatter all around the bottom. I don't think I'm going to get a huge layer of apples here. But then again, this isn't a pie, so this should be a nice flavor. Okay, so what you got there are your almonds scattered evenly all the way across that tart. I wish you could smell this right now. It smells incredible. Okay, we need our cinnamon sugar. We gotta have our butter ready. So here's the butter. Get a little knife. Actually, at this point, I probably use a spoon with that stuff. So, our cinnamon sugar mixture here. This, I believe, we just sprinkled over top. Let's see. Sprinkle sugar. Okay. So, got our apples. Go ahead and start in the middle. We're going to do a, see, do we overlap them? Circles overlapping, okay. I'm going to try to get this as close to perfect in the middle as possible. Get this guy up just a little bit too so you can see the whole picture. Alright, so we're going to continue. You're just going to lay these things out, overlapping circles here. There we go. You know what? Something tells me maybe I should start on the outside here. It's not too late. Let's try that. I think that will end up looking much nicer. Get these things in a nice, you want them inside the shell, and I'm not going to focus too much on overlapping each individual one. What I think is probably more important is that they overlap as you go into the center. Tell right now a few of these aren't quite as evenly cut, so that's maybe something to pay closer attention on next time around. But yeah, as you start to get into this second layer, it's a pretty satisfying thing to see. So this will cook for 40 minutes, and that's going to be pretty much all she wrote. We're going to finish up doing these circles, and then pop it in the oven, and the thing will be done. you know, this really, as I'm doing this here, it looks great. It's, you know, super visually appealing, but I think the thing that I like to see most is that when I look up at the camera, you're just a little bit farther away from it than I am, and any tiny imperfection that I'm picking out now, I cannot see on the camera, and I'm like, wow, that's that's really nice. Just a couple things here and there, you know, you don't necessarily want every single nut to show or anything like that. See, I think this looks great the way it is. But I do feel inclined to add a few more apples. Let's see. I think what we'll do, we'll go ahead and sprinkle this first layer with the cinnamon sugar. I'm wondering if we should use the strainer for this or not. Let's just go with the drizzle here, huh? So this is our 2 tablespoons of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. Just gonna try to get an even layer sprinkled all over everything, right? Kind of tossing it back and giving an extra stir every once in a while. Just like the meme, right? I think this will be beautiful. Try to get around the edges here. I've got just a little bit extra. Like I said, I think what I want to do is just do a few extra apples on the outside. Don't know if that's risky, but I think it'll look nice. And I'll use a little bit more of these apples. And I think what I might do, feeling brave, I think what I'm going to do with some of the time that we have left, I think I'm going to make a caramel sauce for the remaining apples so that you could have some of that, you know, a little bit of apple dipped in some caramel. Much better than the standard, you know, McDowell's, sorry, offering. Okay. I'm hoping this isn't going to add too much liquid. I don't think it will. Like I said, my only regret, my only reservation is that these sides of this tart aren't super tall, but they look nice. Okay. So, take a little bit more of this. Gonna go all the way around it. Finished product coming out shortly here. Okay. Okay, rinse my hands. Okay, so this is what the tart looks like going in. What the tart looks like going in, and I'll show you in a little while what it looks like when it comes out. Okay, we're gonna set 40 minutes on our phone. And we're gonna take a quick break to get everything set up for the caramel sauce. So I'll be back probably at about 1:35, 1:38 or so. And that way we can do the caramel sauce together, have that ready. And who knows, maybe you could even, drizzle a little bit of that on top of it. That'd be good. So, see you shortly. Okay, we're back. We're doing some crazy stuff. I'm going to get this thing set up so that we can get the full person Dave and so that we can have the stovetop Dave. So, we're going to do some caramel sauce because that seemed to be the best utilization of the remaining apples we have here. Gotta hydrate. Hydration's number one. Okay, let's see. So we're gonna start with a saucepan. In the meantime, I moved the entire studio and use the term studio lightly. Got everything right here. So let's see what we can do. How about that? That's a little better, huh? And we're going to move that other camera up some. Get that out of your way. Let's see. There we go. How's that? Now you got the full view. Now, instead of doing all of this with the overhead, I'm going to go ahead and use this area right here so you can see what's going on. I know I'm going to need some sugar. And as luck would have it, I did position this camera right here on top of the sugar in the cookbook. So we're going to go ahead and move that thing real quick. Here we go. This will work nicely. Forgive the quick reset up here. Camera there. Go ahead and tilt it down some, and it's going to be just right. Perfect. Okay. So now we've got our book, which is slowly getting covered by things. I'm going to look up caramel sauce and see what I can find here. Okay. I'm sure that there's a caramel sauce recipe in here. If not, I've made something from a Martha Stewart recipe in the past. Let's see. I gotta remember it's caramel and not caramel. So there is another A in there. $3.49. Caramel buttercream. Caramel tempered caramel sauce. Apple pie. Caramel sauce. $1.77. And we're cooking on the fly here. This is some live action cooking going on. So whatever happens, happens. This was just a good way to fill that time as we're waiting for the apple tart to finish. 177. Looking for caramel sauce. This book is filled with lexicons and graphics and things like that. It really is neat to just sit and read through. It's going to take a lot of damage, I know that. I would gladly buy this again. Okay, so this makes 1.5 cups of caramel sauce. Takes about 20 minutes. That's good because we've got 25 minutes left. We're going to need 1 cup of sugar. Probably have about that much left. Let's see. Actually, we're going to need to move our topping sauce later. Topping sauce for later, so I'm going to put that in a jar. This guy here. This has almost become a jelly, but I tell you what, when you put this on that apple pie or that apple tart, boy, is it going to be good. Boy, howdy. Nice little whip of that. Delicious. So we'll do one. Get this out of the way. 1 cup of sugar. That doesn't quite get us there, so I'm going to get some more out of the pantry. Dump some of this in here. Okay, we'll finish off our cup of sugar here. Spilling just a little bit, that's okay. We can wipe that out. Okay. And 4 tablespoons or half a stick of butter. We'll get out of the fridge. Half a cup of cream. I got some of that. Let me get a little pit bull running around in here. Okay, and tablespoon. This is optional. A tablespoon of vanilla extract. I'm probably not going to do that in there. So we'll spread the sugar evenly in a saucepan. Start cooking it over medium heat. Don't stir it. It says this will crystallize some of the sugar and cause hard clumps. Swirl occasionally to keep it evenly distributed. Let's see. Really is just sugar and medium heat. Cook until a deep copper color. It's another thing you're going to have to use your nose. Whisk in the butter. Add the cream. Salt and vanilla if you're using it lightly cool. Okay, so we're going to get a jar ready here because that's what we're going to transfer to when it's ready. We're going to put our sugar in this pan and make sure it's an even layer. And putting up a little bit of sugar that we spilled before. And we're going to go ahead and put the heat on. Okay. In the meantime, I'm going to make sure everything else is ready here. So it is how much? Medium heat, so we're going to get that heat down just a little bit. And half a cup of cream, have that ready to go. So keep an even layer and avoid the temptation to try avoiding the temptation to stir this stuff. You want it to become a copper color, and I will show you on the camera what it looks like as it gets ready. Okay, so got that, got our 4 tablespoons of butter. I do need a pantry cam. I think that's my next step. There's another person, H.C. Willard, and as soon as I get the shout-outs button figured out on here, I will start throwing some shout-outs to people. But H.C. Willard has a pantry cam, so to speak, and it's awesome. So again, rather than stirring, what we're going to do is just kind of shake this around and keep a steady, even distribution of that heat, okay? And yeah, once the caramel gets hot enough, we'll add in the 4 tablespoons of butter to get it to melt. We'll add in our cream, and we'll use a rubber spatula to do the stirring. I like this. This is a very careful process, but it's fun. Let's see here. And I bet this will be great for these apples in the future. Just keep it an even layer. See, it is possible that the me cam could be switched to an overhead cam at this point, but like I said, setting up, I had a little bit of technical difficulty again. We're getting there, but getting the 2 cameras to work at one time has been a little bit of a challenge. I think I've got it set up to have that and the audio ready. But yeah, sometimes you run into little bumps in the road, so I'm being very prudent with my use of technology here. Let's see, cover the sugar, put it back. So today's been a full day of baking. We've done the Apple Almond Tart. I think I'm going back trying to think over what kind of future lessons. I think one would be to use a smaller tart pan, or to spread out the tart more. This was for a 9-inch, and I may have used an 11-inch pan on accident. But I think I still could have spread out the dough enough to have the height that it needed. I don't want there to be a super thick crust at the bottom anyway, so that might even have been better. But I had room for the almonds, I had room for the apples. Lesson number 2, when doing the concentric circle of apples, start on the outside, working your way in. That way, as you overlap, you're coming up to the center, not overlapping outward, because that makes it kind of difficult. So we're keeping an eye on our sugar. Not a lot of changes yet, just sugar in a pan here. So it looks like I was compelled by the temptation to stir, only because I think that pot was maybe a little too wet at the bottom. So I might strain this out later. Rough pieces in there. I think that's just from the extra moisture getting in. I think it'll still turn out pretty good. I'll have the strainer ready so that when I do pour it in, I'll strain it into that jar. I might have a lighter one too, but so the tart is going to be cooking for about 14 more minutes, and hopefully the sugar will be done by then, or this caramel sauce. starting to get the color that he's talking about. This the recipe I'm following says when you get a deep copper color and then the color of a penny, then you're going to want to stir it. So let's see here. There we go. That's what I'm working with now. Boop, 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 boop. So we're getting there. I think the last time I did this, I did stir a little bit anyway. I don't think it's going to be too bad, but yeah, I don't, I do want a nice smooth sauce. I don't want it to be burny or anything. Okay. So I'm going to add our butter in just a second here, actually. Set this off to the side. Starting to get there. It's going to be nice and bubbly and caramely when it's all done. Okay, a few more seconds. Here's the color we're at now. A few more seconds. I'm going to go ahead and add that butter in. Okay. It's getting darker by the second here. Butter is in. As soon as that butter melts, you're going to go ahead and add your cream. I think once you add your cream, you can turn the heat off. It's going to bubble up too. Kind of a work in progress here. So right now, the sugar's kind of clumping, clinging to the edge of the saucepan. I'm just going to keep stirring it until it's nice and smooth. More of that color that you want to see. I think this is going to be a little bit thinner. I did not have full-on heavy whipping cream. I had some half and half I went ahead and used. I know that's not a one-for-one substitute, but I think it'll probably do the trick. So, kind of got a bubbly thing here. It does feel pretty smooth, and I think it's got some good color to it. I think once it's cooled down, it's going to be a nice consistency. It is a good color. And if not, lesson learned, we use a thicker cream for the next go at it. like I said, I'm going to go ahead and strain it because I don't think that it ended up as, I ended up with some sugar crystals in there that I didn't want, so I'm going to strain those out. See, those are the crystals that he was talking about. You know what, you can't catch up with the camera, can you? I'll show you over here. So these on the bottom are the crystals that show up if you stir your sugar preemptively. So make sure your pan is like perfectly dry when you go to do this, because otherwise you'll end up with the same issue I did. I'm going to fill that up with some water, but the color is pretty good here. Let's see, color's pretty good here. Maybe could have cooked it a little bit longer. We'll see if that sets up. If it doesn't, no big deal. We went for it. We've got 7.5 minutes. So we're going to do a little bit of cleaning up here. Well, the flavor's there. Stuff really is very, very caramely. Very sweet. I think that'll make a good caramel sauce here. I actually just do a small, teeny tiny pinch of salt in there. Stir that in. So, again, just a little bit of salt. Like I said, this caramel sauce is thin right now. I really think it's going to thicken up nicely. A little bit of salt helps balance everything out. Yeah, I think that's going to be great. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the refrigerator real quick. And let's see, put away these apples. We can also probably go ahead and set the cameras back and everything too. We are slowly drawing this to a close, but I want the grand finale. I want to be able to show you what this tart looks like. It's got probably about 7 minutes left still. Oh no, okay, time's flying. We've got about 5.5 minutes left. So if you bear with me, I'm going to do a little bit of cleaning up. If you have any questions for the chat or any suggestions for stuff you'd like to see in the future, by all means, put it in there. I'd love to get some additional ideas for things to bake. Again, today I've been working from this book by Mark Bittman called How to Bake Everything. And it really is like a, there we go. It really is so far, in my experience, like a Bible of baking. It's got, you know, webs, diagrams, all kinds of visuals, really showing the connection between different styles of baking, baked goods. You know, it's got like a tree of leavened breads, it's got a tree of cookies, it's got, you know, little tips and tricks all the way through that. This, a lot like another book that I worked from and mentioned in the past, Ratio, which I'm trying to think of who the author of that is. I got it in the other room. So, Ratio by Michael Ruhlman. This was another one that a roommate of mine a long time ago had and was really crazy about it. And I got it and I can understand why. It's just, it's that same very comfortable tone. It's a really casual thing that just kind of, you know, teaches you how to do a lot of basic techniques, but also instills this, or just empowers you to take more chances with your baking and stuff like that, you know. Actually, let's go ahead and make this camera into an oven cam. Let's see. So I'd like to move this over just a little bit. Okay, so that when we take our thing out of the oven, you'll be able to see it. Oh, nice. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. Great. But yeah, Ratio has got, you know, both of these aren't all just about baking and baked goods, but Ratio is a little more just about cooking, you know, so it's got a segment on bread, doughs, batters, and things like that. Excuse me, and I think that as it goes into, you know, if you were to take those same techniques and really expand on them and try to make them a little bit more digestible, user-friendly, and something that people can really kind of nerd out about, the How to Bake Everything really is a good book for doing that. It just kind of goes in detail on things that you know, you get some good information on in the other book, but you know, it moves on to other things like stocks, roux, things like that, sauces. Which I'm not opposed to doing some regular cooking on this show too. I know I've only done baking so far, but yeah, maybe some cooking in the future. That'd be fun. I do really enjoy to cook. I enjoy making breakfast religiously. I like to make a good dinner. So let's see, about 2 minutes left on that tart. Time's coming. It does smell good. Let's see if it looks as good as it smells. Put some sugar back. Move this guy over. Make some room for the grand presentation here. I think, let's see, I've got a cooling rack. So I think what I might do is I'm going to place the cooling rack under this overhead cam. I'm going to move this overhead cam back over to being an overhead cam. So let's get this guy set up here so that you can see the cooling rack. There we go. So this is where I'm going to put the tart when it's all done. We're looking at about 30 seconds. Here it comes. Let me toss these apples into a Tupperware container. They won't brown later, that'll be nice. Okay, here's the moment of truth. Let's see. That's pretty. Looks like a tart. Let's see here. So, I'm trying to figure out a way to get it out of the pan before I show you. Let's see, what can I do that with? Nice sturdy jar would probably be good. How about that? Do it on top of this. quite. We're getting there. This is a novice's first use of a tart pan, so we're kind of figuring this out together here. Tart is currently balanced precariously on a jar. Okay. Here's the tart. I'm gonna go ahead and find something to get this scooted off here. Yeah, it's gonna slide right off. Perfect. See, what I want is for the crust to be just over that lid there. There we go. With this thing fully supported. There you go. Okay, so here is our apple tart. Now that it's out of the oven. And let's see if we can get a good front view. Here we go. So there's the tart. Crust ended up good. Nice and even. You can see those the fluted edge. It looks nice. The first tart that I've done in an official tart pan. Pretty satisfied. So we're going to do the final step, which is taking this jelly preserved stuff sauce that we made and brushing it over the apples. Now this might make it a little bit less pretty, but I know that this is going to make it delicious, so I'm just going to go ahead and go into it. Trying to not move the apples that we put so much work into. There's going to be a lot of nice flavors going on all at once with this thing, because we've got this the cinnamon sugar, the almonds, the bourbon, and the raspberry preserves. Maybe if we could get this sauce a little bit thinner next time, maybe that's something we'll do too. I think that's going to add just a little bit of tartness when you first cut into it. But yeah, let's take a look at the front of that, the fruits of our labor, right? See it from the top here. But yeah, I think I'm pretty proud of this thing. Beautiful, and I know it's going to taste good. So let's go ahead and get back to our standard camera setup. Move this guy up just a little bit. Move this guy over. Cloverfield, right? Probably not allowed to say that. Okay, well, we'll hang it over here for a second. So this is our Apple Almond Tart. thank you everybody for hanging out. We did about 2.5 hours today, and we'll do it again next week. If you have any recommendations or anything, you can tune in next week and let me know for the following week, I guess. And in the meantime, if I can find some other way to take requests, I'll do that and be sure to let everybody know. But thank you very much for joining me today, and hope everybody has a good one. Goodbye.